Hello, everyone. That took a minute. And welcome back to the Red Sea podcast. Welcome to the first official game recap for the season of 26-27 for Olympiacos FC. And as much as I wished and hoped and truly wholeheartedly believed that we would head into this season with quite a positive eye, a positive mindset. I really did believe that we would see something different. Wow. Wow. Certainly not the result many people expected, certainly not the performance many people expected, and certainly not the outlook many people expected. What I do want to begin with, though, before we fully get into the game, is a thank you. And that thank you goes to probably the best goalkeeper that I've seen play for Olympiacos, arguably the best position for position player this club has ever seen. And I think not even debatably one of the top two goalkeepers in the history of this club. And I, of course, am talking about Konstantis Tzolakis, who has now officially been announced by Hull City. The aspiring Premier League side broke the transfer record as the deal for Tzolakis stands at around 23 million euros. The club broke their transfer record fee, and I still feel like it's a robbery, honestly. Tzolakis gave everything to this club. Tzolakis won 4 Super League titles. Tzolakis won 2 Greek Cups, 1 Greek Super Cup, and of course, the biggest trophy of them all. Tzolakis was a main focal point in Olympiacos winning the UEFA Europa Conference League. There's not enough words to thank this man for what he gave to this club. There's not enough words for the support he'll have and for the suddenly big percentage of Greek fans that Hull City is about to have. You can't not be happy for him. Another Olympiacos talent, another Olympiacos born and bred player making the big move to the best league in the world. And I have seen the comment and I do want to talk about it. Tzolakis could be one of the most important players to keep Hull up this season. If Hull City stay up somehow, some way, and again, no disrespect to the Hull fans, it's just expected for the newly promoted teams to go straight back down, as the trend has been in the Premier League for the past few years. And given that Konstantis Tzolakis is more than likely going to face about 10 to 15 shots per game, if Hull somehow stay up, I feel like a big move will follow immediately for Konstantis Tzolakis. Even if they drop, with how busy Joel is going to be, I do believe that People will see his talent. I do believe that he will still get an immediate big move. But I agree fully with the comment in it saying that if Hull stay up, Kostadis will be one of the main reasons that they do. I do truly and wholeheartedly agree with that. And I'll miss him. I'll miss him a lot. And there is no replay. As a certain Spanish bold manager said once, we cannot replace him. We cannot. And we really can't. There will never be another Kostadis Tzolakis up until the man himself returns from what surely would have been an illustrious career up until then. I can't wait to see what he does, not only at Hull, but I can't wait to see what Kostadis does in general, where he ends up, where he, in my opinion, inevitably will go to one of the biggest clubs in Europe, no matter what that club is, but I'm sure it will happen eventually. And I think I speak for all of the proper and true Olympiacos fan base when I say that we'll follow him everywhere he goes. Same going for Babis Kostoulas, for example. It's gonna be weird, very weird. It already was. Seeing Olympiacos play a European game with a different goalkeeper after 2.5 years was very weird. Those penalty saves against Fenerbahce and Atromitos, that penalty save against Atromitos, my God, I forgot that, yeah, that night against Fener is unforgettable. That night against Fener, I will keep saying it every damn time I can. That night against Fener ended the career of Leonardo Bonucci. And that night against Fener is one of the main reasons we are and will always be Greece's only European champions. In names of not getting too depressed already, let's go here. Yesterday, of course, was the first leg of the battle between Olympiacos FC and NEC Nijmegen at the Georgios Karaiskakis. And the first thing that I want to say is congratulations to the fans. August 4th at 9 at night, and there wasn't a singular seat empty. A singular one. We open the season right where we left it fan-wise, with a sold-out Karaiskakis, and no matter what happens, the fans, the best fans in Europe, once again prove that they will always and forever be right there to protect the team, to help the team, and to stand by the team in the best and the worst of moments. But on the field, the story was sadly different because we saw a very lost Olympiacos, a very chaotically placed Olympiacos that really couldn't find a rhythm, that struggled once again to create proper chances, struggled to score, and sadly, it looks like the same old story. And I think it's time to look at the wider aspect and leave the honestly ridiculous side choosing and see that Olympiacos has problems. And it's on everybody. We'll get into it slowly but surely in more detail. But yeah, that performance certainly was bland. It's the definition of a stalemate. The true and utter definition of a stalemate. I do want to go over the 11 to begin with because it certainly was surprising. The 11 was unexpected. Let me get to that after the comment. Given that the return leg is an away game, I consider yesterday's result tantamount to a defeat. At the same time, the situation is compounded by our team's poor performance. I couldn't agree more. We need to go to the Netherlands, where, yes, we have a good enough tradition, like, let's be honest. And we need to face a team that, in hindsight, is better than expected, is more organized than expected, and is more threatening than expected. And we need to do it with a completely different mindset, with a completely different plan, and with a completely different 11. Please. And that's exactly what I'm getting into. Certainly some very, very interesting selections last night. And I think while we all saw the 11, we were all equally surprised. Because for the first time in a while, all the reports about the possible and perhaps even certain starting 11 were completely false. No one got it right, including me. I got it so wrong. So let's go over stuff. First things first, Balsa Popovic was more of a certainty, okay? Bruno Niamachi down the left, given that it's as ridiculous as it sounds, the only left back playing for Olympiacos currently. The centre back pairing that was expected to be benched started in David Carmo and the returning Panagiotis Retsos, and I'll get to what I said about Retsos in a bit. At right back, we had Manolis Saliagas. The centre mid duo was, as expected, Christos Mouzagietis and Dani Garcia. We had Joel Roca down the left-hand side instead of Gelson Martins. Chiquinho, Rodi down the right, and Ayub El Kabi up top. Now, I'd like to ask something that doesn't concern the starting 11, but rather the substitutions. Is there a logical explanation for the substitution of Joel Roca? We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. That's what I want to say after. First things first, I want to focus a bit on the starting 11. Firstly, because I am annoyed. Okay, I'm very annoyed. You have Zinedine Smilovic on the bench. You have Lorenzo Pirola on the bench. The Pirola Carmo thing, I understand. Because, okay, you wanted to start David Carmo. That's as much as Pirola right now does stand probably as the best defender of the club. Probably, I don't think that's that insane to say. I'm willing to say, okay. I'm willing to say, okay. Retsos hasn't touched a football apart from recent training in weeks. How is Panos Retsos starting over your most performing, most positive transfer this summer? And again, as I clarified, I was talking with Gab specifically about this. As I clarified, I'm never gonna say no to Panos Retsos being in an Olympiacos starting 11. Football-wise, he's amazing. He's our captain. I'm never gonna say no to that. But the man's coming off a lengthy injury at that. There was always a chance, and it was the biggest chance, that he was gonna get injured again. Which he did. I don't understand why Panos Retsos was risked like that. Everyone expected Smailovic to start because of the injury. Maybe it's a bit in hindsight again, but I don't know why that risk was taken. While players like Lolo Scipioni, Ese couldn't play, that's a whole different story. But while players like Lolo Scipioni were protected coming off an injury, why Retsos wasn't protected? Moving on. As I said, I'm happy with the inclusion of Tzolakis in the starting 11. As things stand, performance-wise, Tzolakis deserves the starting position. Maffeo is performing way under the standards that he can give to a team. So Tzolakis should be an undeniable starter, but then we get to the paradox of Tzolakis isn't fit enough yet. He needs more time because he came in a week ago. I think it's a week and a half. Someone do double check that for me when the official announcement of Manolis Tzolakis was. So we're in a paradox of our best performing right back being not fit enough because he was brought in to be a backup. If that doesn't say something about how the planning went at the right back position, I don't know what will. Then okay, center mid, not mad. I don't know why Musa got so much hate. I think Musakitis was one of our best performers yesterday. One of the only bright lights of yesterday's game. And I even think that Dan Garcia wasn't that bad. He definitely shouldn't be a starter, especially in European games. Speed alone. But he wasn't bad. He was very good defensively, and he was very good in the distribution department. That's what he needs to do. He just needs to do it coming off the bench. But we had no one else available last night. So fair. Honestly, I have nothing to say. Joel Roca and Rodinei starting at the wings. I'm actually not that mad about Joel Roca getting a start. The kid looked very nervy to start off with, but he grew into the game very well. I wouldn't count on him as a starter going forward, but he took his chance and he showed something. Joel Roca is very lively while he needs a lot more work. There's definitely something there. There is the promise of a very good winger and an out-and-out winger at that there. So if that's worked on, I'm very happy about Roca getting game time. Someone just needs to be brought in front of him to help him, if anything. And now down the right side. I love Roddy. I've said this before, I'll say this again. Rodinei is one of my favorite players in the Mendilibar era, especially. He's adapting, he always gives his all, and he's effective. I mean, he had one of our best chances yesterday. But his cycle here as a starter has closed. He is a very good choice, winger-wise. He's a very good choice, winger-wise. But from the bench. For the love of all that's holy, Roddy needs to come off the bench. Especially in Greece, if you bring in Rodinei at like the 70th, that's going to be a lethal solution. But Roddy playing a full 90 should never be happening. And I now will go into the comment because, of course, the first substitution of the game was at the 45th, and it was Zelson Martins. And I think everyone thought, oh, okay, Roddy is either dropping back and Tzolakis is going off, or Rodin is getting subbed out. But no. Plot twist, apparently, because 46 minutes in, Mendy decides to pull Roca out of the game and leave Rodinei in. And you know what? Up until a point, okay. I don't get it out and out. I really don't. But okay. I would say that that's acceptable if you go on to the 57th, where Tzolakis got subbed out, and you pull Roddy back, and you put in Fortounis. That's a substitution that would help. Instead, Roddy played a full 90, and instead of Tzolakis, Pablo Maffeo came on, who sadly, because I really hoped that he wouldn't be, sadly looked quite underwhelming once again. And I do want to go into game management in general because that's a whole different subject. The subs. As I said, Zelson Martins came on for Joel Roca at halftime, which is a sub that I wouldn't have done differently, but as I said, after a point, okay, maybe it's understandable. Then you have Lorenzo Pirola coming in for David Carmo as one of three in a triple substitution. And again, in hindsight, Carmo had a yellow. He needed to go. That's a bit of a forced hand. You could argue that Carmo shouldn't have started then, which I am willing to listen to. I said this at the start of the show as well. I would have started Pirola and Smilovic. And I think, again, I'm pretty sure that was the predicted center-back duo to start. But yeah, that's not on Mendy. That was a bit of a forced sub. But then you bring in Jota Silva for Chiquinho. Again, okay. But Jota Silva immediately comes in, has an instant impact on the game, and then you have to bring in the argument that why didn't he start? So then there's a convo there. Because as things stand, Jota Silva showed that he needs to be one of the three behind the striker. He needs to. Because he doesn't only create space for himself, he helps the rest of the team move forward as well. He needs to be a starter in the second leg. But we'll get into that. And I will get into the comment in a bit. I am seeing the comment. As I said, then Pablo Maffeo comes in for Manolis Tzolakis. And I am going to get into this comment because I have a counter argument. Fortounis didn't come in the match because of the injury of Panos Retsos. Okay, I get that. You couldn't have predicted. Well, you shouldn't have to predict an injury in a game. Counter argument. Why didn't the sub I mentioned earlier happen? Why didn't Tzolakis get pulled for Kostas Fortounis and Roddy could have dropped back and Fortounis could have played up the right for 30 minutes, which would have solved a completely different creativity issue. There's always a counter argument, sadly. And again, I don't want to just rain hell on Mendy. I adore him and his playing style. I'm defending Mendy. But as I say always, criticism is needed, especially on nights like this. Criticism is needed. We just need to walk the fine line of criticizing with the aim of helping the team and not destroying everything. We need to walk that fine line. And I'm putting myself in that as well because I am trying to not overdo it because I don't want to. The team doesn't deserve stuff to be overdone, but there is problems that we need to point out and they are crystal clear. Like, come on. They are crystal clear. I really like Silva. As well. And as I said, he needs to start the second leg. One factor that cost us in terms of game management was having only one center forward. Yes and no. I would. It's a ridiculous thing for a team to go into the Champions League qualifiers with only one striker that the coach prefers. Full on agreement. That's a ridiculous thing. It's stupid. But to play the counter argument, I would have agreed with that if Mendy was forced to sub on Jota Silva for Ayoub. That didn't happen. Jota Silva came on at his position, the 10. Ayoub was one of our best performing players. He didn't need to be subbed out. So, does that really take away from that specific result? Again, in my eyes, it's ridiculous to not have two proper center forwards of the coach's liking. And we needed, especially since Yare reportedly doesn't want to be here, we needed to take care of that earlier. I'm in full on agreement. But for last night specifically, I don't think that that's much of a problem. It's going to be for the second leg, because Ayub probably has to play 2 full 90s. That is a massive problem. But for last night specifically, I feel like we had bigger. Medical teams now have the capability to predict an injury. Look, of course I was joking as well about the prediction of the injury. I just meant that Thrylos shouldn't have been a risk, okay? He needed to come off the bench yesterday and to reclaim his, honestly, out of discussion starting position from leg 2. But given he's going off a lengthy injury, there was always the risk, if that makes sense. There was always the risk of that happening. Now, because I don't want to just keep buttering on, I do want to point out the other side as well. Because I am seeing your comments and I am agreeing, I truly am agreeing that the team needs to be helped. The team needs to be helped. We need the appropriate people in. I mean, I'm not even going to focus on the striker. We went into the game with one left back. And that left back was our backup left back. The starter left. And I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. That happened with Nijmegen as well. And I'm not mad that we went into the game yesterday with one left back. I'm mad that we didn't have an immediate replacement. Names came out today, with the main one being Francisco Moura of Porto. Francisco Moura, who, by the way, is an incredible left back. If I'm not mistaken, I'll do my research as always if the transfer moves forward. If I'm not mistaken, Francisco Moura finished off last season with 3 goals and 9 assists. He would be an incredible addition. But according to reports, we have just now started inquiring, with, of course, Cardoso taking the reins on that case. Amongst all the negatives, I do want to say a positive. The work that Cardoso is doing is amazing. Full on props to that. To anyone who brought him in, to whether it's Mr. Marinakis, whether it was someone from the staff, Darko, Karembe, whoever brought him in, massive props for that, because he's been necessary. But I understand the argument of, yeah, Ortega needed to go, but you as a team need to have a ready replacement. I'm not saying sign the contract. I'm saying agree. And it's not an excuse that, oh yeah, we agreed with Roma for Salaheddin. The guy reportedly rejected our offer. And that needed to be expected. That always needs to be expected when you play in the Super League. As far ahead of Greek standards as we are as a club, that's still our league. And we need to work around that. We needed to have someone ready. And even if we didn't now, at worst, after Nijmegen, someone needs to be in. And it's not only the left back position. Exactly what the comment says. What we need right now is a new left back and at least one more midfielder. We need an 8. We need a center mid. Thankfully, Santiese will be back for the second leg. And the midfield duo better, it better be Santiago S and Christos Koudakidis. That better be the midfield duo. With, hopefully, Jota Silva in front of them. Or even Gustavo Sa. I would prefer Jota Silva given the certainty of the player. But even if he starts Gustavo Sa, okay. I feel like Chiquinho should come off the bench. It's the same thing as Rodi. I think Chiquinho off the bench is going to be a lethal solution in the second leg. But I think we need to approach the starting lineup a bit differently in that department as well. Right now, we are one injury away from an injury crisis. Knock on wood, no one gets injured in the second leg. Because right now, we have, as I said, one left back, one striker, and hopefully Tzolakis is okay. Otherwise, we have one right back. We need to bring people in. Like, please, aside from the midfielder and the left back, who for me are the priorities, we need a winger and we need a striker. Those 4 are a necessity. 2 of them are an immediate necessity, but those 4 are a necessity. We need to reinforce the team properly. And hopefully we do. Hopefully, truly hopefully, we do. I want to really back in a bit to the performances. There's positives and there's negatives. And I want to split it a bit. We talked about some of them. I do want to give my props to Balsa Popovic. He scared the ever-living God out of all of us for the first 20 minutes. But as nerves settled in and settled down, he was great. He was amazing. He made 4 saves, prevented 1.43 goals. He had a successful high claim. He punched away a ball successfully. 1 successful sweeper act. He had 16 out of 45 accurate passes. And what is a bit sad, Balsa Popovic attempted 43 long passes. I'm going to let you all, for those of you that didn't see it, I'm going to let that settle a bit. Balsa Popovic attempted 43 long passes. That can't happen in the second half, in the second leg. That can't happen in the second leg. It simply can't. And he only had one out-and-out error that led to a chance for Nijmegen. He was okay. He grew into the game amazingly. And I'm sure that if he plays without nerves from minute 1, he'll keep another clean sheet in the second leg. I didn't think Bruno was that bad. Yes, defensively, I mean, come on. He's our backup left back. I didn't think he was comparatively that bad. Same for our centre back duo. Carmo's early yellow was not the smartest decision. I get it was a tactical foul, but still, that perhaps could have been avoided. Tzolakis, again, as I said, wasn't bad. I spoke about Garcia and Mouzakidis. Roca, again, for me, shouldn't be counted on as a starter, but definitely deserved the chance. He grew into the game very well, could have very well had an assist to his name. Chiki, again, maybe should come off the bench next game. Roddy definitely should come off the bench next game. And I do want to give my props to Ayoub El Kabi. Chilling game. Up until the 90th minute, the man was everywhere. He had 2 key passes to his name. He had 10 out of 17 accurate passes in the final third. He had a 62% accurate passes as a whole. He had 1 progressive carry, of course. He won 6 defensive duels. He won 4 aerial duels. He won his only tackle. And he was anywhere and everywhere. He fought everyone off, everybody off, and dealing with the circumstances and how we played, he was our brightest light by far. And if the 11's different, if the plan's different, he'll score for certain in the second leg. For certain he'll score in the second leg. I thought all the subs that came in were okay. Pablo Maffeo was underwhelming and Jota was good. The rest of them were okay. And as I'm slowly closing off, today's show flew. Today's show flew past. I hope it was the same for you all, as always. I do want to name off my starting 11 for the second leg. And whether you're listening now or afterwards, do leave yours in the comments. Of course, Balsa Popovic is expected to start both games. Bruno, of course, again, I would go with Pirola Smailovic this time. I don't know if Thrylos is okay, but I would still go with Pirola Smailovic. I would give Thrylos the rest. At worst, bring him off the bench to make sure he's fully fit going forward. I would still start Tzolakis to be safer defensively. it better be, as I said, Christos Mouzagitis and Santiago Esse. I would go with Gerson. I would go with Jota Silva, and I would start Fortounis. And up top, of course, Ayoub El Kabi. I said this as a PS on the first thoughts yesterday. I'll say it again. I am more than okay with Kostas Fortounis not starting as long as someone better is in the 11. But in the current circumstances, not using him at all is a crime. I'm sorry, but it is. Olympiacos can still qualify. That's for sure. Olympiacos can still qualify. Olympiacos need to qualify. I know all the talk about immediate Europa and so on and so forth. Olympiacos deserve to qualify, need to qualify against a team like NEC. That's where I stand, personally. That's my opinion, my very humble opinion. Yeah, exactly. With the current roster, it's a mistake for Kostas Fortounis not to play. I am insisting that he should start, but that's a discussion. Him not playing at all is a horrible decision, and I don't think that's even close to a discussion. I'd still start him in the second leg. Unless you all have any further questions and comments, that's about it today. I hope we covered all your thoughts. Even if we didn't, even if you're watching after, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Spotify, leave all your thoughts, questions, additions, disagreements, and everything in between in the comments below. Like, as always, subscribe as we're getting closer and closer to 550 and onwards and upwards, as they say. And all the links you need are below. For those of you that voted for us to possibly make the Football Content Award finals, thank you so much. Voting is closed, or there is like 2 hours left. So more or less, voting is closed. And we'll know soon whether we made it this time or once again we just missed out. I'm equally thankful for all of you, and hopefully we can represent the best community there is on a big stage as well. Great show today. Thank you very much. It flew by, as I said. We can win the second leg. We deserve to win the second leg. See you next week, hopefully with the qualification secured. Asterisk on that. I'm not gonna leave you all without a show for 7 days. We will do a catch-up probably on Friday or Saturday. I'll keep you all updated on all the news going on and perhaps a clearer preview of the second leg. But I would for sure not just go a week without a show for no good reason. So I'll see you all in a few days, and I hope you all have a great night. Thank you.